Welcome.
Welcome to Switching Reels.
I was going to say that.
Hi, Connor.
Hi, Trenton.
How are you?
I am unaffected.
That does check out. This is like lower on the list of movies that we could have watched that would affect you.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So here's the thing. I also feel like this movie, we're going to have to be like, we watched Grave of the Fireflies today.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have to go through our ratings and then immediately go to the spoiler wall because things that happen in the first 10 minutes of this movie could be considered a spoiler.
I agree.
I will also say, like, I got to the end of it and I'm like, I don't know that we can spoil this movie because it feels like everything that happens, you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that's like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming at the beginning of the movie. Like,
very, very much agree. Okay, let's do ratings then.
all right. Technical, I'd have to go to like an 8. And that's with certain things bringing it up a bit. I had some issues with the some of the animation of the characters specifically. Looked kind of, some of this might be my personal preferences. I cannot stand rotoscoping.
Oh.
And some of the stuff in this looked kind of rotoscoped just because of the way that they animated it.
What's rotoscoping?
It's a technique that was used for a while where it basically is a way to transfer like live action camera movement to animation.
Oh.
And it creates a really weird effect. You've definitely seen it before, and I could probably find something where you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see the comparison there.
Totally.
But it's also something that I don't really know how to describe. There were some of those scenes in this, and some of the facial animations specifically seemed a little flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there were things like that. But also there were other things like the choices that were made for Setsuka? Setsuko.
Yeah, Setsuko.
Like, where I watched it, and I'm like, that is a child. Like, that is exactly the way that a child would act.
It's a child.
And, like, so from, like, the actual, like, choices made on what they were doing, I was like, that's spot on in ways that really hammer home a lot of the things in this movie really well.
Absolutely.
So that combined with some of the backgrounds being incredibly well drawn, like that kind of brings my technical score up some.
Nice.
So I've got things on this where I'm like, that's a 4, and I've got other things that are like, that's a 10. And so I'm kind of letting it sit at an 8.
Nice. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Where do you enjoy this?
Enjoyability, I'd probably put this probably a 7. Nice. Strong 7 to a light 8. For story reasons, mostly. Nice. I feel like this is a movie that, like, you don't watch it for other reasons. You watch it for the characters and watching what they go through.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard to get into the details. I will say, pacing-wise, it felt a little slow.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised because it's a short movie.
Yeah. And the other part is the pacing was a little slow. And weirdly enough, and I don't know if this is helpful for my score or not, there were scenes in it that were much more lighthearted than I expected.
Yeah, like very lighthearted.
And that may have increased increased it. It may have decreased it. I really couldn't tell you unless I had seen what it would be like with different cuts that maybe took out these scenes or added more of these lighthearted scenes in. So yeah, I am feeling more lukewarm on this than I expected to.
Nice.
While still acknowledging that I think it's a great film, and I totally understand why it's on the list as high as it is.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, completely agree. I think I'm all of yours, but up a number.
Oh, okay.
So I'm pretty sure I'm a 9 technical. I think some of those minor things that you were talking about just weren't as important to me.
Yeah.
And I do think I'm either at an 8 or an 8.5 as it comes to enjoyment. Like, it was a nice movie, and I do think the pacing is really the only thing that got me. I thought the juxtaposition between lighthearted and devastating scenes was well placed. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah. So let's go over the spoiler wall at this point.
Yeah. Hello, friends.
Or
welcome.
Through the spoiler wall.
I'm going over the spoiler wall.
Yeah, you always
with
are.
my ladder.
One of these days, I'm gonna put some barbed wire up there, and you can't go over anymore.
That's a good idea. Barbed wire would be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure that one out.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna do the prison fence thing too. You get full wall of barbed wire before the spoiler wall. You have to go through the gate.
I'll have to go back to Shawshank Redemption and like find some new things to do there. So yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here. Please like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah.
It's the holiday season by the time this comes out. So
yeah.
Happy.
Also, I assume we probably missed some with the distance between the last episode we recorded and now.
Only in our buffer.
Oh, okay.
So we should be fine there.
Okay, cool.
But yeah.
Real time, this has been quite a while. It's been like, what, 3-4 weeks?
Yeah, 3-4 weeks, almost a month, I think, since we recorded. So
yeah.
But yeah, thank you everyone. Here we go.
Yeah. This was a heavy movie.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Poor Setsuko. Poor.
Yeah.
Saita.
Yeah.
Saita. Saita. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not good with Japanese pronunciation.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's ridiculous that when things are translated from Japanese into English, specifically names, they still put a whole bunch of extra vowels in there. It's like, you did not transliterate this in a way that is actually readable in English. Because my understanding is that these would be different characters, so you should be able to put them into English in whatever order it is so that you get the correct pronunciation by reading the name, no?
Yeah, but so I'm low-key learning Japanese right now.
Okay.
Just because it's fun.
Yeah.
I was able to pick out their names from the string of the string of language that was being spoken.
Yeah, so I was listening to the language and I'm like, that name is about 2 syllables shorter than it should be based on the English that's written on screen.
Like which one?
Setsuko?
That's all perfectly correct.
Okay. But they never pronounce the su. It's
yes, they do.
Setsuko.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's way
Japanese.
too fast.
That's Japanese for you. Everything's about the same speed, and it's 3 syllables. And they pronounce the syllables all the same speed. And then they have weird rules for, different letters.
It's like when I was watching Neon Genesis Evangelion for the first time. And everybody was making fun of me that had seen it before for pronouncing Asuka's name as Asuka. Because that's how it's written.
So, yeah. And also, that one's dumb. There are sometimes in Japanese where they're like, hey, say this word. And I'm like, there's a missing character. There's a missing sound. Why are you doing this, Japanese? So you're totally correct.
Okay.
It's the language, though, and not the names.
I will say Japanese makes me far less angry than French.
No, French is so spooky.
I will say 2 most soothing languages as far as I could just put on a movie that's in Japanese or in French
Yeah,
and fall asleep to it,
absolutely.
feeling comforted.
Yes. No, they're beautiful languages.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you.
So it's just the spellings when you transition it to English make me so mad.
Yeah. No, it's really funny.
Okay. That was a complete aside.
No, it's a good one though.
Yeah.
It's lovely. The Japanese language is really pretty and cool.
It is.
I was like, ooh, I know that word. Nice. So yeah, anyway, very, very heavy story. It opens with someone saying they're dead. So that kind of just introduces the entire themes, all the themes and all the concepts of this movie. There's like, so one of the things that I just wanted to call out was like, I didn't understand when you said firebombing that it was firebombing, and that makes it more devastating.
Yeah.
Because everything in Japan at that time was made of wood. Like that's
Right,
one of the most, first of all, brutal and like not like least compassionate, but and also like highly effective ways of destroying a city.
Right, yeah. And I mean, this is something where like I think a lot of people don't realize this was just how warfare was in World War II. Like this was,
that's insane.
If I remember correctly, this is pre it was post Geneva Convention, but pre
UN.
Well, it was definitely
UN,
pre UN, but if I remember correctly, there was a summit where they kind of revised the Geneva Convention and were like, okay,
Actually,
it's not just chemical warfare that we're worried about. It's also like, hey, civilians and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so like, interestingly, I've done a decent amount of research on this, and the way that the US did these things was surprisingly, and I use this word lightly, was surprisingly compassionate.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these things were like, hey, they'd send planes over before dropping flyers to let them know, hey, we're about to bomb your city.
Please,
get out.
Like get somewhere safe.
Right. But also it was like, okay, but you're still bombing a civilian area. Like it's not okay. But yeah, just very, very strange to like kind of watch this weird, like almost conflicting morality of war at one point.
Exactly.
Very, very strange. And it's like, it's why, like anytime you look at World War II stuff, like this is, no matter what theater you're looking at or what country, there is always going to be some country that at one point or another in the war had planes flying over it, bombing it.
Yeah.
Bombing cities. Which is insane to think about today.
Yeah.
Like,
just absolutely insane to think about. It's for some reason this one specifically like really called out how personal war is.
Yeah.
And like the damage and violence that war causes is a very personal matter. Like,
despite the fact that most of the things that happen in this are not directly related to war violence. There's the bombing at the beginning.
Yep. Which disperses everyone.
Right. And there's a couple of bombings throughout the movie that are far less impactful as far as the bombings themselves go.
Yeah.
There is something to be said about the scene where they're bombing the town and Saita goes in and starts stealing everything and then like starts cheering on the bombers to continue going.
Yeah.
Which like was one of the most chilling scenes in this movie.
It absolutely was.
But like it also was really good at conveying like this is what it's done to him.
Yeah.
Like he is so desperate that this is when he is able to get things so that he can feed his sister and himself. Oh, but yeah.
food rationing, poverty, illness, like all of these things take front and center stage through this. Probably alongside some themes of like I suppose what's the term that I'm thinking of? Almost a patriotic sort of.
Exactly. There's a lot of patriotism in it.
Yeah, but like the sort of patriotic hierarchy issues that came along with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is hard to dislike anyone in this movie more than the aunt.
Oh my gosh.
Who to play devil's advocate, she herself, we see, make sacrifices.
Absolutely.
For her husband and her daughter, and like make sure that they have food even if she doesn't have food.
Yep.
However,
she
also is completely willing to just make these sacrifices for other people.
Exactly.
Like, I think it would have been a much different sort of setup if we had seen her go to them and say, hey, we're banding together for this. Also, look at what these people are doing for the country. Do you think that you could spare your food for them?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, that would be much more of a, like, bringing people in collectively. But instead, she just goes, no, they're serving the country. You're doing nothing, so you get nothing.
Yeah.
Which, I did not like the aunt.
She was not. She was a very well done character for not liking.
Yeah.
She was really, really well done. And a very good example of, like, I think some of the worst that you can get with patriotism and, like, a us versus them mentality. Because it extends first to, like, Japan versus America. But then to, like, people that are, like, that are obviously beneficial to the nation, and then those that aren't. And, like, I was getting just, like, real weird, like, parallels between, like, some of that and some of the, like, stuff we have going on in America. And it was so spooky.
Yeah.
It's very spooky.
Well, and I think what's interesting here is, like, there's almost this spectrum that is created, like, based on how useful you are to the nation, regardless of how much you are able to give. Right? Like, you shouldn't expect two minors that are too young to work to be able to provide
really anything.
Yeah. Like, well, and to provide for a nation in the same way that two adult people are.
Yep.
Like, I'm sorry, say we go back 3 years and my sister is still in high school living with my parents. Like, I would not expect her to be able to do even the work that I was doing 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Not because she was incapable, but because she wasn't there yet. And I did not like the aunt.
No. And it forced the children into a larger, like, trying to be self-sufficient posture and mentality than they necessarily had to be.
Right, yeah.
Like, there was, like, some very interesting, stereotypical to American, but, like, stereotypical Japanese pride in everyone in that situation.
Yeah.
And that was just very interesting to see, even, like, instilled in such young children.
Right, yeah.
Just that culture of self-sufficiency.
Well, yeah, and I think the thing that really kind of hammers home the audience's dislike for her is specifically the fact that the mother who had just died, she goes, "Oh, you should sell her kimonos for the race."
15 kilograms. It's a lot.
Right, yeah. And then immediately turns around and says, "You don't do anything."
After taking half of it, at least.
Yeah. Like, after taking everything that didn't fit in the jar and, like, it's the way that she framed the selling and then the way that she framed the outcome being completely incongruous and very, it just felt very, very underhanded.
Very.
Which is something where, especially when you're seeing it applied to minors, is just really hard to watch.
Yeah. Whew. TV 14. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was one thing that was really interesting in this movie as well, is like, there's not very much like content that is like, oh, you should be able to show this to, I mean, content wise, you're probably good with like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
The
But
way
like,
that things are
the betrayals,
yeah,
the emotional impact,
yeah,
and like the intensity of the story.
This one, I'm like, yeah, you should wait till you're at least 14, 15.
Yeah, take a while. Like, take a breather.
And I might be biased on the 15 part, because that's pretty much when I just
watched everything.
Yeah, I watched everything. Yeah, that's when I got completely desensitized.
Nice. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Like, I think the poor like mom having like burns all over her body.
Yeah.
Thankfully you don't see it, but like you do in your soul.
Right,
it's
yeah.
So sad.
Yeah.
And then he has to like help cremate both his mom and his sister before he himself dies.
Yeah. That's really rough.
Oh my gosh. As someone with a mother and sister, as you also have, that's so rough and spooky.
Yeah. Also, the final nail in the coffin for the end. I can't let this go.
No, keep going. Let's go.
The fact that you find out that she told
Setsuko.
Yeah. Told her that her mother died.
Yeah.
Right after Saita said,
was like,
I didn't want her to find out.
Yeah.
Like, that's really fucked up.
Goodness gracious.
I would like to talk about the way that silence played into this film.
Super well.
I didn't think that any of the sound did anything super incredible.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few like sort of master strokes that happened every once in a while. The fact that Setsuko's cry at one point leads into a siren that's basically at the same pitch.
Yeah.
But it's separated by like 2 or 3 seconds.
Yep.
And so you can hear the comparison without it being like
over each other.
Yeah. Like there were some moments like that were incredible. The ones that really stuck out to me were the times when I was like, there is nothing.
There's literally nothing.
Or they're having a conversation and there's nothing behind it. There's no background noise. There's no
background music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it added to some of the, I think, intentional feeling of hollowness that you get through a lot of this movie. Like I think this movie is one that I feel like I need to gush over because it does so many things so well.
So well.
And the things that I dislike about it are things that bothered me through the whole movie, but nothing that I'm like, I'm walking away from it going, this movie was bad.
Awful. Exactly. No, I completely agree. Like, it was such a well done story. it dealt, as Ghibli does really well, with people, characterized them really well, and gave just another perspective on just how atrocious war as a concept is.
Yeah.
Like, oof.
So, yeah. Man, I really don't know where to go with this. Otherwise,
We can go a little bit with motifs, because there are a bunch. Like,
oh yeah,
the easiest ones being the fireflies the entire time. Like,
yeah,
and the different color. Like, it starts out with fireflies and denoting, like, hey, they're watching from the afterlife.
right,
They
yeah,
know they're dead. So here you go. Have some fun with that while you watch why they died. They set you up for that really well the entire movie. They're like, hey, just so you know, here's what you can expect. Like, it's not going to take you by surprise.
right, yeah.
You just have to, unfortunately, watch how it happens. We're like, great, thanks.
Yep.
So fireflies are big, fire's big. Like, there's so much of the destruction here happens by fire, but like fire explicitly. You know, like there are other war movies where it's like bombings or like the evil menace of people, which there's some of that here. But fire itself is a primal force in this movie.
Yeah. One thing that I would like to touch on actually is the fact that we never see enemy soldiers ever. Yeah. In fact, I'm not sure we see anyone that is 100% confirmed military at all in this movie. Like, there's the picture of the dad.
Yep. And there's the vision of the dad during the naval.
Yes, that's true. But most of this is most of the evil that we see is people scrounging for available resources, and the bombings happen from impersonal fighter planes.
Yeah.
That
just weird. Like, it's almost a force of nature.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like it rains, it hurricanes, there's typhoons, there's bombers.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It's all the same.
Yeah. That was very strange as a choice to me, but I also kind of appreciated like the way that communicated the impersonality of, specifically of bombing.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to be anywhere close.
Right, yeah.
Like, it would be so easy from both sides to desensitize yourself to who the other is.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And like the closest we get is one point where Saita tells Setsuko that their dad will make them pay.
Yeah.
That is the closest we get to anyone that's actually upset with the planes.
Yeah.
We don't get that with anyone else.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And like you were saying, this is just a large story about other people who are generally in more, like, I'm not going to say affluent or powerful, but like less impoverished situations than the children.
I would say
taking after themselves.
I would say the strongest point of that is with the affluent. I don't know if it's a family.
Yeah.
It's not super well established who they are, but they're definitely affluent. They come home and they go, "Wow, the house is
still here, just like we left it.
Yeah,
we
just
can
like
listen to our phonograph."
Right. Yeah.
Ooh.
And the view from their house is directly across the pond from
the shelter.
The shelter that
the children were living in.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Where Setsuko had just died.
Dies.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Which also, absolute props to whoever voiced Setsuko specifically.
Yeah.
She did an incredible job.
She did such a good job. It
on
was insane.
Every point. Like everything from early in the movie where I'm going, it's going to wreck me when she dies because you know it's coming.
Yep.
To the end of the movie where she's slowly getting worse and worse and worse, and you can feel it in the way that she delivers her lines.
Yep. some of her like passion and fervor
Yeah.
and like lifeness.
Everything's just kind of leaving.
Yeah. As it comes to story structure, I really like when stories are like, hey, we're gonna give you the beginning and the end, and then we're gonna go watch to the middle. And like we don't really have necessarily from that middle point after Setsuko dies to when Saita dies. But you can do an extrapolation, and it doesn't matter at that point because he's just on that path.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, he's just poor, and he doesn't have anything really left to live for.
Yeah.
For lack of a better phrase.
His entire family but him is dead.
Yeah. Well, and his father was kind of the last hope. Once he's gone, and then his sister is gone not long after that.
Yeah, after he's used all of his resources to try and care for her now.
Right. Like you definitely get the sense like, where's he gonna go? What's he gonna do?
Exactly.
He doesn't have anything else.
Yeah.
He doesn't, at this point, he's just living because.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really rough.
Also, the fact that he put his sister's ashes in the fruit drops bottle, and then that guy just throws it at the beginning of the movie.
Right. I totally did not recognize what it was in there at the beginning.
Then learning about it again halfway at the end of the movie, so that it bookends you.
Yeah. I will say this is not my favorite structure of giving me the beginning and the
only
end.
reason that it's even kind of okay for me right now is because I've been doing a lot of like Hebrew and Jewish studies.
Oh, okay.
Which have the U-shaped pattern of like thing at the beginning, repeated at the end, siloing towards what's in the middle being the most important.
Yeah, I recognize and appreciate that.
Absolutely. It's not an easy one to like.
I don't really like it with tragic structures specifically. I like being able to pick up early, oh, this is going to go poorly, and then watching all of the good things happen until the bad things start happening, and you go, okay.
Oh, damn. I liked it because it kind of sets it up as a more documentary almost than a like narrative. Like,
that's fair.
You know the outcome's going to be. So like enjoy it with them while they have the time here, which is a little bit, I think, also the message that they give at the end with Setsuko and Saita looking over like modern Tokyo or whichever city they're watching over.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, like, yeah, we died. Whew.
Yeah.
Things have grown again.
Right.
And we're so sad. But the ghosts are never sad.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
The spirits are always very happy to be with one another.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, like the last section we get with Setsuko specifically is her just fading into all of these different memories where, you know, she might not have been happy exactly, but she definitely wasn't like she was at the end. Like she still had
life,
imagination, life, some vitality. Like
I just realized also, like Setsuko rises from the ash container at the very beginning when it's thrown. And that's like, oh no, that hurts my heart.
So, yeah. I mean, this is still a heartbreaking movie. I think just less than I was expecting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a more, like, again, personal heartbreaking movie.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's not Schindler's List where you're cringing the entire time and are so sad.
Schindler's List is more, for me, I think I said this in the podcast, but it's more a depression trip.
Yeah.
Like, the entire time I'm just watching it, I'm like...
really ever in that movie.
This is just getting worse and worse and worse, and I believe that people were this horrible, but I really can't believe people are this horrible. Like, can we just...
This is hammering it home. It keeps hammering it home.
Whereas with this one, like, it definitely is more personal. I think it just it didn't hit me in the same way. I think partially because I didn't particularly like Saita. I appreciated that he was looking out for Setsuko, but like there wasn't anything that made me go, "Oh, this character, I like him." Like as a human being.
Yeah.
I just sort of sympathized with him, and I
Yeah.
went, "Oh, that was rough that happened to you. I like your sister."
I like your sister. Exactly. No, totally. I feel like there's a lot of, it's often mentioned that like he's the son of a naval officer, like
Yeah.
a very just high ranking official,
Mhm.
and he feels like he has to live up to that the entire time,
Yeah.
which is why he makes all of the stupid decisions that he makes the entire movie.
Yeah, he does make a lot of stupid decisions.
Because again, Setsuko can't make any of these. She doesn't know.
Right, yeah.
Like,
And that is another part of this. Like there does feel like a certain fatalistic thread that kind of goes through this. Some of it might be because of that first scene, but I also think a lot of it is because of like the stupid decisions that Saita keeps making, where like, yes, living with your aunt was horrible. No one should be treated that way. However, moving out, maybe not the best move.
yeah.
And staying moved out, despite the fact that it's going to hurt a lot to go back,
Yeah. Also
not the best move. At a certain point, you just need to swallow your pride and just go, I know that I wasn't wrong, but I'm just going to say that I was wrong because I need to patch this up.
Yeah.
Because I literally can't live this way.
Which is interesting because you can go a similar parallel. So you have Setsuko, who is reliant on Saita, and you can make a very similar argument for the aunt. Like, Saita is doing his best possible. He is reliant on the aunt, though. Like, the aunt in this situation is the person that can stop this at any time.
Right.
Like, it's very much if Saito was more than 10 or 12, whatever age he is.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot more that he could have done, but I think it just goes back to the aunt is not the kind of person that I would want to be related to.
Yeah, but also, like, they move out and they make it clear, like, hey, we don't know where we're going to live yet. We're just not going to live here. And she goes,
yay.
Oh. All right. Okay. Like, she doesn't really get a chance to...
But she does. Right there.
Okay, right there. After that, like, when things start going poorly, like, she doesn't know where they are. We get the sense that maybe she doesn't care where they are, but...
There's a lot of other, like, people that know they're related, though.
Yeah.
Like, almost everyone in that town knows that they're related. I can almost guarantee...
Yeah.
It has gotten back to her at some point that they're still here.
Yeah, that's possible.
I just don't like her.
I mean...
It's a bad time.
I agree. I don't like her either, but I think there is a situation in which they are not reliant, or their situation could have been avoided by going to her.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
And I think she would have taken them back in, despite the fact that I really, really disliked her and didn't like the way she was treating them.
He's more than half our age.
Yes.
Like, he doesn't have this.
Right, yeah.
He doesn't have this ability.
Yeah.
Like, makes me so mad.
Yeah.
So mad. This movie makes me mad in retrospect. Normally, I get, like, happier or more, like, endeared toward a movie. This one's one of the movies that's making me more mad as I think about it more.
I think I got out most of that when I was thinking about how much I hated the aunt.
Good.
But, yeah, I mean, this... there is one thing to say about this movie. Undeniably, it makes you feel things, which I think any good art does.
Yeah.
It makes you feel things.
And this one does a really good job at it,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Now, I don't particularly like the things it makes me feel.
Nope.
And there are other movies that make me feel things that I like better. Even if I like movies that make me feel things in ways that I go, ooh, that was so interesting. You made me feel horrible. Which is what we'll be watching next week.
Oh, great.
That was one that I watched and I went, ooh, that's so interesting. You made me feel awful. Truly, truly awful.
Nice. What is this movie?
American History X.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think I said we would be watching before, but that was before this movie, this last one got put on Netflix and started climbing into the ranks.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah, for a long time it was hard to find. That's why I hadn't seen it before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was on Hulu a few years ago, and I went, I can't watch that right now. I'm not in the state to watch something that emotionally devastating. And then it got taken off Hulu, and I went, well, I'll find it again when it gets put up. And it's been years.
Wow.
So.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited to see it. I haven't seen it before. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be a very accurate telling of American history.
No. No, it's not. It's not that kind of American history.
Do I have to find why? Is this a math problem?
No, and actually, in retrospect, I don't know why it's called American History X.
Nice. Maybe
Like,
American history is the function.
So there's a. We'll watch it next week.
Lovely. Perfect. Awesome.
So how do we end this?